Welcome back. House Republican leaders is encouraging Republican members of the conference to think twice before holding more in-person town hall meetings. That because constituents, including some Democrats, have been protesting something that's going to come up in the president's speech tonight. Elon Musk and Department of Government efficiency cuts to the federal workforce. Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about that today.
The best thing that our members can do is communicate directly, frequently, consistently with their constituents, and there are other avenues to do it than just going in to try to give the other side sound bites. I mean, they're doing this for the cameras, we all know it, and I think it's wise not to play into it right now.
Maryland Republican Congressman Andy Harris joins me now. He is the chair of the House Freedom Caucus. Congressman, is that good advice from the Speaker, not to do these in-person town halls?
Well, I think it's great advice because we need to reach out to many more people than you can put in a town hall. Those are dozens or maybe a couple of hundred. When I do my telephone town halls, we reach thousands. That's the goal, reach as many as you can. And the theatrics at some of these town halls, again, George Soros-funded theatrics, are, they're over the top. They distract from communicating to the average person.
Does it in any way make it look as if Republicans are afraid at any level to engage in this debate with those who are unhappy at their town halls?
Well, only if you don't ask the Republicans how many thousands they've reached on telephone town halls. The fact of the matter is that's the technology we should be using now. We should be reaching out to as many people as possible, not to an isolated few in a town hall.
You're going to meet with the president, that is to say yourself and the Freedom Caucus, at the White House tomorrow. What's on the agenda, and what is the Freedom Caucus's current point of view on a continuing resolution to avoid a government shutdown?
Well, we of course helped deliver the votes on the budget resolution last week. I believe that we will help deliver the votes on the continuing resolution next week. The president has asked for a continuing resolution to the end of the fiscal year to advance his agenda, and I think that we're going to try to deliver it.
In the way that the Speaker has currently described it, you don't have any objections to the Speaker's approach on resolving the continuing resolution, essentially keeping Biden's spending levels through the remainder of the fiscal year?
No, I don't have it at all because President Biden's not in the Oval Office and he's not actually deciding how the spending goes. The bottom line is the president, through the executive action, is deciding how that goes. This will freeze spending at the current level. I think Americans don't want to increase spending. They realize a $2 trillion deficit is probably just about as high as we really should be going. And I think they look forward to, again, the economies and the efficiencies of the Trump administration.
Do you believe, Congressman, that the tariffs imposed today on Canada and Mexico will last for a long time, or they are a short-term means by which to get to something else?
I think that's right. I think what the president has said, he said he wants the borders controlled. He wants to stop the flow of fentanyl across both our southern border and our northern border. And I think if Canada and Mexico take steps toward that, I think that those tariffs will be relieved.
I want to play for you some sound from President Trump, January 2020, celebrating the USMCA, the trade agreement that these tariffs violate. I want you to listen to that, please.
USMCA is the largest, fairest, most balanced and modern trade agreement ever achieved. There's never been anything like it. Other countries are now looking at it, but there can't be a border like that because, believe it or not, that is by far the biggest border anywhere in the world in terms of economy, in terms of people. There's nothing even close.
So, Congressman, if in President's words, it's the largest, fairest, and most balanced trade agreement ever, why do we need tariffs?
Well, because Mexico basically was a co-conspirator with the Biden administration, allowing 10 million people across our southern border unregulated, allowing unregulated fentanyl across our southern border. I think he thought that Canada and Mexico would keep up their part of that bargain. Well, obviously they didn't. Hopefully they will in the future. And again, we can scale back those tariffs.
Yes or no? Do you have any fear that these tariffs, if they are long running, will increase prices for your consumers in your district?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. I don't think they're going to be, just as I just said, I don't think they're going to be long running. I think they're going to achieve the goal of decreasing fentanyl crossing our borders.
What's your definition of long running?
More than a couple months. Look, I think we saw from Mexico's action 2 months ago that they folded in about 2 days. I don't know how long this is going to take. These countries will try to play the victim, but in fact, the victims are the families who has members that died from fentanyl. They're the real victims here, not Canada and Mexico.
Congressman Andy Harris, Maryland. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.